And a special welcome to Decaf Smurf, one of my favorite viewers. This is stream number 26 in my series of making a web server from scratch in C++. And tonight I'm going to be working on some unloading and updating of plugins to our server. Since we just added the ability to load plugins, we didn't get to the unloading part. And if I have time, I'm going to work on abstracting away the interface to the server for the plugins, so that number one, the big problem right now is the plugins end up getting a copy of the server code linked in statically. But also we kind of want to limit what plugins can do to our server. Like, it'd be kind of silly to let a plugin shut down the whole server, wouldn't it? Although that actually might be something we might want a special plugin to be able to do, actually. So I'm just making sure my setup is all running, and we'll get started. I think we're good to go. So last time we made this plugin scan delegate that we call once, and then start a directory monitor where we call the plugin scan delegate again every time something changes in our plugin's image path. And this delegate's kind of big and nasty, and we'll probably be breaking this up and cleaning it up a bit. Basically, it goes through all of our registered plugins and sees if it finds one where it's not loaded. Basically, if the unload delegate is not null, it means it's loaded. So if it's not loaded yet, but there's an image file, it'll try to make a copy of the image file to the runtime directory, and then it'll try to dynamically link it, and then try to find the entry point procedure, which is a function called load plugin, and it'll try to call it here, which will try to load the plugin. And if it succeeds, it's now plugged in, right? Presumably the load plugin will turn around and tell the server it wants to register one or more resources. The resources being the targets of web client requests. So for example, we have a static content plugin right now, and one of the first things it does is it registers with the server to accept requests for a resource that matches a certain resource space defined by a path. And if I go over to our configuration file, which I don't have open, hold on, let me open VS Code. So we have right now our static content registering the entire space of the server, but we could say like limit it to static, and then it would only serve content that starts with static in the path, right? So once the resource is registered, then whenever the web server receives a request for anything, it's going to forward it on to this delegate, which right now is just generating an OK response that says coming soon. But pretty soon, if not tonight, then the next stream, we'll have it actually read the content from the file system. I had set up a static, where did I put it? Test static content, and we have a little HTML here that says if you're reading this, then the server and the static content plugin appear to be working. And then presumably you could have a whole directory tree of HTML and CSS and JavaScript, and that would make our web server actually behave like a real web server and serve static content at least. So that kind of explains plugin registration. And then the deregistration, which we're going to finish tonight, is this part right here, where the plugin provides the web server a function to call whenever it wants to unload the plugin. In the case of our static content plugin, the unload delegate is going to call the unregistration delegate, which is what the server gave it when it registered for the resource. In other words, the plugin is going to, when it's told to unload, it's going to unregister from the server. And what the server does with that, if I collapse this and show it, if the unload delegate is still null after we ask the plugin to load, it's basically that it failed, right? And we don't have code for it, but what we need to do is when we decide to unload, either unload all the plugins or unload a selected plugin, we need to actually call this plugin unload delegate function. And then do the reverse of this stuff. So unlink the runtime runtime file, and I guess we don't have to undo the copy, which would be delete the copy. We could keep it around, I guess. But unlink the runtime library and then set the unload delegate back to null to sort of mark that the plugin is no longer loaded. There are going to be two cases where we do this. So we're going to unload all plugins when the server itself is shut down, so that when we basically when we right here after shutdown is set to true, we're going to want to unload all the plugins here. Another case where we want to unload it is where the plugin is loaded, so it's not equal to null, and the image file has changed. So in other words, we have updated the plugin. And we'll be doing two things: unload the plugin and then recopy and reload the plugin. So let's work on unloading first. So it's the easiest way to demonstrate the problem we have right now is if I were to run the web server, debug, web server, and then we tell it to get the configuration file from one level up, config.json. If I hit just Control C, okay, I guess it doesn't show on the console, but it shows if I run it here in the debugger, right? We were seeing this last time. Let me make sure I have this set up to run correctly. Yeah, so it's passing the same arguments. So here it is running, and then I hit Control C. Oh, Control C. Come on. There we go. And then tell it to continue. We'll get this. What is this? A read access violation, right? So this is because we're not cleaning up correctly. What it probably is, yeah, it's here where the server is running its destructor and is trying to clean up, looks like the resource space, basically the registration from the plugin. And I think what ends up happening is it goes to a destroyed object because we need to clean up and unload all the plugins before the server itself is destroyed, because otherwise we violate some of the constraints we've set, where the server needs to live longer than the plugins because of the delegates that are handed out. I should probably draw up a nice little diagram to illustrate the lifetimes. Like the server needs to live the longest. Plugins will always be constructed and destroyed while the server's running. And maybe a diagram would help explain why that's the case, and then what that implies for all the different delegate functions we pass around. So anyway, let's clean this up. Because this whole plugin system is within the web server program, we're not going to write unit tests. We don't actually have unit tests for the web server thing. Although I kind of started thinking this, where am I? I lost my place. This whole monitor server with the plugin scan delegate, maybe we should put that in a library and have unit tests for it. I'm going to wait until it gets a little bit more feature heavy. Because right now it's actually pretty simple. The whole web server fits within 520 lines of code. If it gets up to 1,000 or 800 lines, then that'd be a good sign that we need to kind of separate it into its pieces and maybe make a library out of the pieces. So yeah, let's do simple unloading. That'll happen right after the shutdown. It'd be similar to loading, so let me take the code for that, which is here. We're going to loop through all the plugins, right? Collapse that just so it's easy to see. And let me close off all that. So basically we need to reverse this logic. If the unload delegate's not null, and we don't actually care about the image file at that point, If it's not null, it means it's loaded. So first thing we need to do is unload it. So that'll just be to basically call that unload delegate. Right? And then the second one, I need to reverse the order here. Second one would be to unlink the dynamic link library or runtime library. And it's called load and unload, unfortunately. So it's a little, the word load or unload is kind of overloaded here. So just remember that unload in the contents of a runtime library is unlinking. Okay, that doesn't return anything, so I don't need to cast the return value to void because it already is returning nothing. Okay, and we don't really need to. The reverse of copy would be to delete the copy. I don't think we need to. There's no really good reason to. So we'll just leave that out. And I'm going to see if this is enough to get it to stop crashing on shutdown. It should be, because it should cleanly reverse the process that we did when we loaded things. So here again, I'm starting the web server, and then while it's running, I'm going to that console window and hit Control-C. So when you hit Control-C in a program you're debugging, you'll get this exception, and the exception is just Control-C exception. That just gives you an opportunity to see in your code where you were when you hit Control-C. Hey, Rally Monkey. When do you usually implement unit tests? I usually implement them when I have a library. I try not to unit test programs because it's a bit complicated. So if there's something in a program I want to unit test, I'll pull it out into a library, make a unit test for the library. And the program, really what you want a program to be is just a shell that's using components that you have tested elsewhere. So let me continue. Okay, we're still getting problems on destruction, so we'll need to debug this. Oh, I see. The monitor server is still running. We need to shut it down. We'll probably want to shut it down before we start unloading plugins. Otherwise, it could interfere with unloading. It might try to continue loading, so we'll do that. So directory monitor.stop. All right, now we're going again. Control-C, and then continue. Okay, still not shutting down. Okay, I told it to stop, but it's still running for some reason. Oh, wait a minute. I'm confused. It's not the directory monitor, it's monitor server. It's in destroying the plugin objects. Ah, okay. It's the plugin function itself. We need to, I think, yeah. We call the unload delegate, but we don't actually set it to null. I believe that's important because that delegate, should be null pointer. The function object can actually hold, what do you say? Some state from the DLL, and so when we unload it, before we call this unload on the runtime library, we need to make sure we don't have any variables or code left in our program, in the memory of the program. There we go. So now we have a clean shutdown. And yeah, the only exception thrown was when we hit Control-C. And it also doesn't have any memory leaks. If you recall from a few streams back, we put, where is it? In the top of our main function, we have if we're running on Windows, we have this automatic leak check. So it's nice that we saw that it didn't leak. All right. I'm going to check that change in because we can say that we have now restored clean server shutdown. And I feel like using Git GUI. I was trying to play around with the GitHub desktop, but I don't know, it hasn't really grown. I haven't grown attached to it yet. Even though this is very bright white, I still kind of like it. So this is restore clean server shutdown. Unload all plugins cleanly before shutting down. You approve of Git GUI, okay. Yeah, the only one thing I'd like to do, I'd like to have a dark theme for the stream, and the Git GUI is like a bright lights, what do you call it, bright light theme. I haven't been able to figure out how to change that unless going through every single color. Okay, that took a while. I did the push command and it took a while to run. Oh, welcome Commander Root. I see you're here too. Yeah, we got quite a few bots joining our channel today. I was talking before the stream with someone about these strange bots that show up. My understanding is that they kind of join the channels of streamers who have low viewer count, and they're supposed to, I guess, help streamers to get noticed, and there's like auto hosting that's done, but I still don't quite understand the whole thing. One amusing thing we were kicking around, the idea of when we it's on the goal list, right, to make a Twitch bot. In the overview, you can see on the roadmap, we have to make a Twitch bot is one of our long-term goals. So one amusing idea I was kicking around is, what if we made a Twitch bot which kind of would mess around with bots like Commander Root and Decaf Smurf, and I don't know, just all in good fun. Maybe just try to bait them to whatever they do. Something with loyalty points, right? So we could award, if we know that someone's a bot, we can just award them so-called loyalty points and then see if they try to do something with it, and then our bots could come in and like make fun of them or something. I don't know. I need to learn more about how that stuff works, what those things are doing and why, before I can really do something fun with that. So now we have clean shutdown of our plugins. Let's do the next thing I want to do, which is reloading. And the idea will be, we'll do this shutdown procedure for a plugin, and then the startup procedure again whenever we see that the image file's timestamp is changed. Hold on a sec. And this, you'll probably see this once in a while on my stream. Whenever you see that overlay, it's usually muting the mic to go say something to someone behind me. So, but also if the dog is barking at the doorbell or whatever, which is where I got the idea for that overlay. You'll see that just means that the mic has been muted. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to be using this load code and unload code in a different place. So I kind of feel like it's a good idea to refactor this out. Because this code is all within this object plugin, maybe we'll make it a method of plugin. My IntelliSense is not helping me. I guess I have to search for it myself. Yeah, we have this structure called plugin. And it has a constructor, but it has no other methods. But maybe we can make a method here called unload. And we can move to here the logic that we had for calling the unload delegate. This stuff right here, right? So we'll just be calling second unload here. And move the code over to there. This is a refactoring step known as method extraction or extract method. Some tools, some IDEs will kind of do this automatically. I know the Java tools, like in Android Studio, will do this automatically with one of their menu options. This method cleanly unloads the plugin following this general procedure. 1. Call the unload delegate provided by the plugin. typically this plugin will, this delegate will turn around and revoke its registrations with the web server. 2, release the unload delegate by assigning the variable holding onto it and by assigning null pointer to the variable holding onto it. Typically, this will cause any state captured in the unload delegate to be destroyed / freed. After this, it should be safe to unlink the plugin code. So of course the last step 3 would be to unlink the plugin code. Yeah, and so we can kind of, whoops, didn't mean to delete the whole line. We can do this, right? And I actually prefer an early return with positive logic. It's just a personal preference to putting the entire method inside of a not equals logic. So let's unload. Let's make a load one, and this one can fail. So actually, what does it matter if it fails? I guess it does. In fact, right now, if it fails, it'll just try again the next time the scan delegate's called. So first things first, let us take all this code here within this if and move that to hold on, I'm just looking to see. Yeah, we use the diagnostic message delegate inside, so we can move the whole thing. So this will be plugin.second load. So right now we'll just blindly load. Void load. But we'll change it in a little bit to only conditionally load. So it's generally going to be, these operations are the reverse of each other. This method cleanly loads the plugin following this general procedure. So this one, the last comes first. Link, actually it's really number 2 because there's an additional step, which is make a copy of the plugin code from the image folder to the runtime folder. The reason we do that is because on some operating systems, like in Windows, I think, you can't update a DLL that's loaded already. So if we want our plugins to be updated on the fly, we want to make a copy and then load the copy. So the image folder will have the original that can be replaced whenever, and the runtime folder will have the copy. One thing we got to be careful about, though, is we don't want to copy it while it's being updated. And I also think we also don't want to immediately copy it right after we detect it's been updated, because it might be that the update might not be an atomic operation. So actually I thought about this before this stream started, is we'll probably want to add some code in here to be safe, where when the directory monitor says an update happened, we probably want to pause a little bit of time before we actually try to copy and load the library. But we'll do that after we're done with this refactoring and the reloading thing. Okay, so make a copy, then link it. After we link it, we locate the plugin entry point function. It's going to have this constant name, load plugin. Call the entry point function, providing the plugin with access to the server. The plugin will return a function the server can call later to unload the plugin. The plugin can signal a failure to load or other kind of fatal error simply by leaving the unload delegate pointing to null. Or really a null pointer as a null pointer. Okay, so all the plugin seconds go away. And all the red squigglies that we have remaining are the things that we're going to actually have to pass into this method. So all these guys go. Actually, I think we're now in the... No, we're still in the function. Now here we're not, so... What are all the things we have to pass in? So diagnostic message delegate, definitely. So let's see, that's declared here. So we need to pass that in. So the plugin name, we need to pass that in. What needs that specifically? Plugin name. It's actually used in a bunch of places for diagnostic messages mostly. And we don't, there we go, get rid of that. And wherever plugin first shows up, we can use plugin name. Okay, so now just the server and the plugin's runtime path. Server, I guess we shall put that here. Yeah, it's this right now. We're going to be changing that real soon also. Okay. Plugin name. This is the name to... This is the name identifying the plugin in any diagnostic... I think it's only used in diagnostic messages relating to the plugin. Plugin's runtime path. This is the path to where a copy of the plugin code is made in order to link the code without locking the original image, code image. Whoops. This is so that the original code image can be updated even while the plugin is loaded. Okay, param insert, well, it's really in and out. We're allowing the plugin to mutate the server by registering resource delegates. So this is the server to which For which to load the plugin? Yeah. Oops. My printer is periodically stealing the focus of my keyboard away to tell me that its ink is low. That's what happened right there. So, okay, do I have a... I probably have a little bit of documentation for that I can steal. Yeah, here we go. Monitor server had it. Alright, so now we have this nice nifty load function. What's this squiggly down here? Oh, it needs all of our arguments, right? So it needs a plugin's runtime path. Oh, it needed that second. First it needed the plugin name. And then the plugin's runtime path, and then the server. That's just server, right? And then diagnostics message delegate. Yep. Okay, so now our monitor server is a lot cleaner. We have this bit where we're getting our configuration, and then here where we kind of build our dictionary of plugins from our configuration. Then we set up the delegate to call whenever we want to do a scan. And then we call that delegate once. Then we tell directory monitor, go ahead and start and call that delegate again if anything changes. We wait till the server is shut down, stop the directory monitor, we unload all our plugins, right? So let's make sure that this still works. I hope In-N-Out Burgers isn't named as such because they'll mutation of their food. Isn't that a cool word, mutate? To change is what it means for computer scientists. Mutate. Or immutable if you can't mutate it. Because we don't get a crash detection in this, I'm just going to run... Or do we get a crash detection? Let me run this. I thought we had something where we printed done. No. It says exiting. Do we have something that prints out done when it's really done? We don't really, because it's not truly done until this server is destroyed. So yeah, I'm going to run it in our debugger for now, just to make sure it's not crashing on shutdown. So Control C, continue, and yep, clean shutdown. Only exception was our Control C. So let's check that in. Get GUI. So this is pure refactoring. Extract methods, plugin load and plugin unload. All right. Push that bad boy. And by the way, all this code is in GitHub now, so there's a link below to the top level repository. That doesn't have much other than this manifest file. I use a tool called Mugget that I wrote, which goes through this manifest file and will poll each individual repository. And it has some other cool things, like you can ask it to tell you a rundown. Oh, I'm in the wrong directory. Rundown of if there are any local changes. And if you don't tell it the L thing, it actually scans upstream too to see if there are any new updates upstream that you can pull. And it's been telling me that for Google Test, because Google has updated Google Test. I'm not pulling in the latest of that because I don't know if it's broken, right? So that's what this hat means. It means I've pinned it to a specific version for now. Yeah, obligatory plug. I have to explain that, I feel, because if anyone clones my code, they'll get very little when they clone it, and they'll be like, well, where's the rest of the code? And I have to say, well, you have to get all these sub-repositories to have all of the code, right? So... what to do next? I think I want to, before I handle reloading, I want to address a potential race condition. Right now, hold on, let me find out where I am. Right now, this monitor server tells the, here it is, it tells the directory monitor to start and call this delegate, plugin scan delegate, whenever anything changes in the plugin images path, right? So if this is fast enough, it could actually detect someone starting to overwrite an image file and immediately try to load it. You know, if it's really that, or if it's faster, which could actually fail because it might not be able to load if it's still being updated. So what we kind of want to do is whenever the directory monitor detects a change, we kind of want to hold back off for a little bit to give the whatever is updating the DLL a little bit of time to finish updating it. You know, updates are pretty quick, so we don't have to wait too long. Maybe just I don't know, 100 milliseconds or something. So a really quick and easy thing would be, assuming that we only update a DLL, what am I thinking? That we, after we make a change, that we don't make another change until at least a tenth of a second later. We can just simply do standard thread, or this thread, sleep for standard chrono milliseconds 100. So during this sleep, we're allowing whatever is updating the plugin to finish updating it before we try to load it. That's a quick and dirty way, but to be a little bit nicer, what we kind of want to do is we want to wait until 100 milliseconds has elapsed, and the plugin scan delegate hasn't been called again. So which means I kind of want this code to go into a thread. Actually, all of this code to go into a thread. And not only do I want to wait for 100 milliseconds, I want to wait for 100 milliseconds, and then when it wakes up, check again to see if we've gotten our callback, and only try to load plugins if we haven't gotten a second callback. So let's do it one step at a time. First, we'll move this stuff into a thread. So there's a general pattern with modern C++ for thread. We need thread, we need condition variable, and we need mutex. I'm just trying to keep them in alphabetical order. And this is part of what? This monitor server is part of what? Oh, it's a free function. Or is that just the quick and dirty way usually? Oh, is it a typical strategy to combat potential race conditions? Just letting it back off? Not really. To combat a potential race condition, the optimal way is to have some kind of mutex. I mean, some kind of semaphore, like prevent it from being updated until your work is done. But in this case, if I interfered with file copying, I could potentially have problems where, you know, I'm on the command line and I'm updating the DLL and it says unable to write file. So I have no control over one half of the, you know, one side of the race. So I can't do that optimal solution. So doing a back off thing where you make sure no other change happens is, it's kind of like, I guess it'd be kind of like what you do if you, and like you and someone else are trying to go through the same doorway and you almost collide. One of you's going to stop and hold the door for the other, right? So that's kind of like what this is. You could still have, you know, like two people passing and they are going to run into each other, and so they both try to move out of the way. And then now they're still in each other's way, and then they'll move back. You might have that happen. And that's what our thread will do. It'll back off and then try again, and it'll see, oh, okay, another change happened, so back off again. There's still a potential that will collide, and so the worst case would be we try to load the plugin and it fails, or the update of a DLL will fail. And that's still not that bad. We'll just have it try again. We'll have to have a flag where it tries again if it fails. Yeah, this delay, this backup delay is just to make the chance of colliding very remote. It's not going to be zero though. And it's acceptable there where if the chance is very remote that you have a collision, it's okay for the collision handler to be very expensive or time consuming because it hardly ever happens. Anyway, we're going to move this into a thread. So we need to define a thread. I guess it's going to live entirely within this monitor server, right? And so we'll make it here. Center thread. What are we going to call it? Plugin loader. And we need to give it a function. So plugin loader. And the rest of the arguments to the thread are what arguments you want to give to the thread function. So we'll give it, what does it need? All of this stuff, right? I'm just thinking, maybe we just give it the plugin delegate. Yeah, let's do that. So we'll define the thread here and give it the plugin scan delegate. Oh, we also need to have, yeah, we need to give it blah blah blah, tongue-tied. We need a condition variable. Condition variable, please, yes. Called thread plugin loader wake condition, and standard mutex plugin loader mutex, and then we'll have a flag called plugin loader stop. And let's have another one called called plugin loader scan. So what we'll do is we'll have our thread wait for one of these two flags to get set, and if stop is set, we just stop the thread. If this is set, then we'll start a little bit of a timer, and we'll clear the flag and set a timer, and then when that expires, if the flag is still not set, then we'll try to load. Sound good? And if it still fails after that, we'll mark the plugin as something we can try to load again. Let's say what? Maybe we'll just have it loop until it's able to at least make a copy of the DLL, right? Yeah, so all that detail will go into the thread in a moment. So let's see. We need that to define that function. Let's just pretend that function exists. That'll start the loader thread. We don't want to give this scan delegate to the monitor also. We wanted to give it a bit of a simpler delegate. So let's make that one. So const auto. We'll call that image path changed delegate. It's gonna just capture, well, actually we need to capture all these guys. The condition variable, the mutex. Well, actually not all of them. We don't need the stop one. We do need the scan one. So again, the basic pattern, we do a lock guard. Let me do this. Let's see. I think it'll let me do that. So all that we want the directory monitors delegate to do is set this scan flag and then wake up the plugin loader with a notify all, right? So we'll do that. And then after everything is shut down, directory monitor shut down, but before we unload the plugins, we want to stop the plugin loader. So the same kind of deal where we get the mutex, we do something, and then we wake up the loader. This time it will be not scan, but stop. And then after, I put this into a little braces block because we only want to hold on to this mutex while we do these two lines. After that, we want to join the plugin loader. So that'll block until the plugin loader thread returns. Okay, so we just need this plugin loader function. So this will be a thread, and it just takes that one delegate, right? Yeah. Oh, hold on. It needs more than that, right? It needs the condition variable, the stop, and the mutex, right? So yeah, so it takes a scan delegate first. That's a function with not returning or taking anything. So scan delegate. Then the wait condition, then the mutex, and then the stop. I need to change these a little bit though. This one, we don't want a copy of it, we want a reference. Same thing for mutex, same thing for stop, right? Okay, so this function is called any worker thread, which responds to notifications from, well, hold on. This is called a worker thread, which will perform which will call the given scan delegate whenever, well, let's abbreviate these a little bit. Oh, it needs both flags, doesn't it? It needs the scan flag as well. Need to get the order the same. This one was, again, scan. This function is called a worker thread, which will, this worker is called a worker thread. Hold on. It's called in its own worker thread. It will call the given scan delegate whenever the given scan flag is set. After a short wait period, whenever the given is remains clear after being set, after a short wait period after being set. Let's see if this reads back correctly. It will call the given scan delegate whenever the given scan flag remains clear after a short period. After a short period after being set. I think that's good enough for now. Good enough for government work? Is wording the comments your favorite part of coding? No, absolutely not. It's my worst favorite. Least favorite. But I'm trying to stick to the discipline of writing it. I don't want to give up and start thinking, oh, the code is self-documenting. This is the function to call if the scan flag is set. I'll just keep the parameter descriptions short and simple. wait condition. This is used to wait for either the scan or stop flag to be set. Then mutex. This is used to synchronize access to the scan and stop flags. Now these are all in and outs, aren't they? Because we are writing to them. This flag is set to signal when the scan delegate should be called. This function clears the flag. And then, not last but not least, is stop. This flag is set to signal when the thread should exit. It's technically not modified, but we're taking a reference, not a copy, so I like to say in out to reinforce that we have full access, read and write access to it. Okay, so let's put in a naive implementation right now, which is this. It is standard. Whenever you're going to wait, you do a unique lock. Unique lock, please. Decal type mutex. Lock mutex. And then you say, while not stop, we're going to if wake condition dot wait. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter. We'll just wait regardless of. We won't really care if why it woke up at first. Printer issues again. Okay, wait takes the lock and the predicate. Predicate is going to capture scan and stop and return if either one's true. So scan or stop. It wasn't the poor doggo's fault. No, it wasn't. Doggo is like chilling out in the background. And what is it not like here? Is it spurious? No, it doesn't like it. Doesn't match that. Why not? There is no overload of weight that. So what are the overloads of weight? Lock and predicate. Or just a lock. Maybe it doesn't like that is a reference in decal type. Yeah, that's what it is. I don't know why, but sometimes when we have a reference and not just a name of a variable, it doesn't like me using decal type. And I don't know, unfortunately. I like to use decal type because then I don't have to say standard mutex twice. So if I decide to make this recursive mutex, then I wouldn't have to change this code down here. Recursive. But yeah, it gets to this point and it's like, oh no, you can't do that. So I have to be repetitive. If I have it in both places, I have to change it in both places or it won't work. Hold on a sec. Right, so we're going to do our first wait here. Then we'll say if scan. Hold on, I guess we should just do an early exit if stop, right? But if scan, here's where we want to clear the flag. And then we're going to wait a certain amount of back off time. So if not wait condition dot wait log again, wait for, and what is it? The duration's next. So chrono milliseconds 100. The condition again will be scan and stop. Return scan or stop. But if neither one is set within 100 milliseconds, then we'll call this scan delegate. So two cases really. Scan will get set again, and there, I think what we want to do is do another back off. So maybe what we'll do is we'll have an inner loop. Actually, no, because if scan is set again, it'll be not stop, and this wait won't happen at all, right? Because scan will already be set, and so it will just clear it and wait another 100. So ultimately, we'll get to a point where it goes 100 milliseconds and scan isn't set again, and then it'll say, okay, we could finally call the delegate. It still could fail though. If it does, we'll just mark the DLL as needing to try again after a short period. But we'll get to that later, because that requires a little bit more logic here, right? But this should work already the way it is. Let's make sure. And oh, maybe not. Compiler errors. I want to add some diagnostic messages to kind of see that it's working like I should, like I expect. Oh, what does it not like here? Oh, don't you love decoding C++ standard library error messages? No overloaded function takes 5 arguments. Why not? 6 arguments? I think it's because this needs to be an address of. I get that right? Maybe the problem is that's too many arguments. Where's my manual? Velocity, please. Velocity on Windows dash on Mac is the same thing. So we go to C++ thread. The thread constructor. How many arguments can I pass it? Supposedly I can pass it any number of it. Yeah, it's got a args ... Hmm. Condition variable mutex. Condition variable mutex. I wonder if it's because these are references. Well, it could be. What happens if I do this? It's probably because they're references, actually. I think what I'll do is I will make a little structure for this plugin loader to give it some state. So that would be, let's see, turn this into, not turn it into, encapsulate it into a structure. Struct loader. Let's just see if, I'll clean up the documentation in a second. I just want to see if this works. And we'll just, what we do is pull out all of these things to be properties. And need a constructor. And initializing constructor, so it's just going to take all of these again. Scan delegate is scan delegate. This is the kind of boilerplate stuff that I don't like in C++. Okay, we need to, we're going to, well, I'll fix this up in a second. We just need to give this a new name. How about we'll call it run. This is probably what scares people away from C++. Could be. Not a variable. Sure it is. Is it because I didn't capture it like that? Maybe? Huh. Why did it not like that? It's not a variable. Sure it is. It's a variable up here. Wait a minute. What did it say for that? Oh, it's just that it's unnamed. Oh, yeah, sorry. Just captured this. Yeah, sorry about that. Just not understanding my own stuff for a second there. So, plugin loader. We should just move the thread into that, shouldn't we? Then I don't have to have these references. Yeah, okay, so yeah, make it an object, right? Call it worker. Yeah, we'll make this into a full class. I just want to make sure that I can make it work that way. Why so many problems with using references? Not quite sure. But usually when I use standard thread, I use pass by value. So maybe it's a restriction of standard thread. Plugin loader. Just that. Thread. Worker. Worker, please. Equals standard thread. Address of plugin loader. Run. Address of plugin loader. And then plugin loader worker join. Let me just make sure that this builds. Let me run it. I really need to clean it up. I want to make sure it runs. I won't really know if it works unless we put some diagnostics in there, right? So let's do that. So print something here. Oh, did I not capture the diagnostic? I didn't. We need that too. This guy. And he's a long name. Ugh. Come on, clipboard. Okay. So call it plugin loader. How come it says size T? Oh. Oh, it is a size T. Huh. Anyway, 0, I don't care. With the level, debug it is. And the string will be starting. And at the end, it'll be stopping. And here it will be sleeping. And here it'll be waking. These are what we call debug messages. Just look on Stack Overflow. Question, why can't you pass an object by reference from creating a standard thread? Answer, the arguments to the thread function are moved and copied by value. If a reference argument needs to be passed, the thread function has to be wrapped with standard ref or standard cref. I don't even know what standard ref or cref are. But yeah, that kind of answers my intuition that we can't pass references. It has to be passed by value. So here we will say need scan waiting. Scanning. And let's have an else for now. Well, we'll turn this around. If it wakes, then it'll be, hold on, that, else that, right? It'll be need scan, but update's still happening. Backing off. Oh, we didn't pass that diagnostic message delegate to it. Yep. Okay, so let's run the web server. And you can see it's starting and sleeping. And let me make a new shell here. New, how do we, I forget how to do this. I haven't, is it just this button? Yeah. New shell. Actually, I kind of want this to be broke. Can I break this out into a new window? New console dialog. What happens if I just drag this out? No, it won't let me do that. Well, I just want to see this window while I'm here. No. I don't know enough about con emu, so let me just start up a plain old shell. Exit this guy. I'll go to projects, Excalibur, build. Yeah, I'll play with that later. It was web server, and it was debug, and then plugins, right? There we go, plugins. So, oh, I need to start it with this plugin not existing yet. Let me start over. You can actually see the waking stopping worked. I want to, let's rename that. Rename it will cause it to not be picked up. So now if I rename it back, static content plugin, and you can actually see it work. The directory monitor said something changed. It says need scan, waiting, and then tenth of a second later, did the scanning. I should probably print the diagnostics about when plugins are loaded and unloaded, though, so we can actually see that it loaded it. Let's rename that back, and let's add those diagnostic messages. So that was load and unload, right? So we'll say here, system abstractions printf copying plugin s plugin name.cstring. What is that alternative to the standard window command prompt that you're using? It's called conemu. CONEMU. It's nice for like full screen and being able to tab back and forth. I just don't know how to do a split or to show another window off the top of my head. So maybe there's one. Oh, that's dialogue. Let's see let me see what this does. Oh, see, it just opened more tabs. So close, yes. Yeah, I'll figure it out later. I want to know how to open a new. I guess I could just open up a new instance like that. But might as well just use this guy. So new console split current pane. Yeah, let me play with it later. I really just want to see these messages right now. Copying plugin, linking plugin, loading plugin. Oh, hold on. That's just 2 load steps. Locating plugin entry point. I am printing if it fails to load. I'm not printing something if it succeeded. Load plugin. If it's null, else plugin loaded. And here's where I'm going to raise the level by 1. Because I kind of want to be able to see the loadeds and unloadeds only, but not the loadings. Unless I turn up all the debugging, I'll see everything. So we have load. Let's do the unload. Let's make it after everything's done. Or should we do it first? Probably should do it first. Unloading. Plug in that. Oh, we don't have a name. And we don't have a delegate either. Okay, let's fix that. So it needs these 2. Actually, is the plugin name something that's in here? Image file module name. Nope, so we'll just add 2 arguments, copy the documentation from here. Let's do 1 before and 1 after, and make this one debug and this one not be. And we'll say this one is plug in whatever, unloaded. Okay. Too few arguments, right? I should have known that. It's plugin.first and it's diagnostic message delegate. Okay, so I need to print that through the diagnostic message delegate so that I get the nice timed message. So now when I rename XDLL to static content plugin DLL, yeah, so now we see it woke up, needs a scan, waiting 1/10 of a second. Now it's scanning, copying, linking, loading, Actually, I was supposed to put there locating. Locating and loading, loaded. Then we hit Control C. It's waking up, it's stopping, and then we're unloading, and then it's unloaded. I just noticed when there's no source, it still prints a colon. That's fine. We should probably print something there like server, right? Web server. Can we do that in the main? I guess that's something that this diagnostic stream reporter does. Yeah, leave it. Okay, the one that said loading, I wanted to change that. Yeah, locating. Okay, and then, so this is working, so let me clean up this plugin loader. I think it qualifies for being its own class. Let's do the right thing and make it its own class. So, going back to VS Code in web server, CMake, we'll call it plugin loader. We'll have a CPP and a HPP. Copy, paste, plugin loader HTTP and plugin loader, yeah, CPP, HTTP, yeah, okay. So back here, CMake dot, then over to Visual Studio, reload solution. Now let me, from main, I'm going to just delete the plugin loader. Instead, we're going to include plugin loader.hpp, and let's go to that guy. So this is plugin loader.hpp. This, how have I been phrasing this? This module declares. This module declares the plugin loader class. We're making a full-blown class. So let's start fresh with no includes. Well, we need memory because I like to follow the pimple pattern. Memory, please. Okay. Okay, thanks, bye. All right, plugin. We should probably make plugin its own class as well. All right, here we go. And this is this is going to be a first class class. First class class. All right, fix that. And that's like that. And then kill everything afterwards. Okay. Let's take the header and copy to the CPP. Oh, how did that become a J? I didn't even see that. H. This module, and again, I'm not sure how I word this usually. So I'm going to go over to something, see how I word it. Contains the implementation of. Just want to be consistent. So contains the implementation of the plugin loader class. So this will include plugin loader HPP. And here we're going to put the impl. And I believe we can get rid of all of these and signs. I believe we can. This will be plugin loader run. Because what I want to do here is get rid of these. Okay, we still need part of this constructor actually. Let's copy all of the constructor out here. These guys, we might as well just make them part of the class. This does not need to be passed by reference because it's already a delegate. We will need functional system abstractions, diagnostic sender, and let's copy the boilerplate pimple pattern stuff. Public methods. This the constructor of the class. The constructor. This class, what does it do? This class maintains a worker thread which is responsible for, actually, yeah, it can still be called plugin loader. It's also going to do unloading and reloading, but loaders unload also, right? Which is responsible for loading, reloading, and unloading plugins of the web server. I'm actually wondering how much of the scan delegate do we want to keep outside the plugin loader? Oh, we don't need this anymore. Maybe we don't even need to pass the delegate in. Maybe that's just something the plugin loader knows what to do. You know what to do. We'll just put it into the CPP. Oh, hold on. No, we need to call it be able to call it manually. Right? So instead of calling this run, we can call it, actually it doesn't even need to be declared here. I can completely move it into the implementation. There. These are properties, and these are methods. Plugin loader, plugin struct. It has no tag member. It's probably because I still have to fix the errors I have here. Sorry, I bumped the mic just there. Yeah, so I'm just trying to make sure I do this without losing any code. I'm not losing any code, so I can do that. I need a home for that. Here. Don't have a name for it yet. Let's give it a name. So this is what? This is the new home for the scan delegate. So this will be called scan. Oh, it needs access to the plugins. So I'm not going to document the constructor quite yet because I'm not sure what it needs to know about. Alright, so that's just that. Oh, did I get rid of load by accident or run? Oh, I did on purpose. That moved up there, didn't it? It's the same code, just another copy of it? I think so. Whoa. Actually, I need the plugins, the runtime path, the server, diagnostic message delegate. So a lot of the same stuff. Don't need that. I need the diagnostic message delegate. Need the server. What else? This is just impl new impl. Oh, this takes a reference, so we actually need a constructor for impl. And that doesn't need to be a reference. I'm kind of all over the place, unfortunately, so just bear with me. Okay. Yeah, we need a constructor. This server for which to handle plugin loading. Hello, do I have the flu? Hi, Mustafa Anson. I don't have the flu, but I just had a very delicious oatmeal stout, and maybe it's my voice is affected by it. But I'm feeling well and good, and maybe if I sound like I'm having the flu, it might just be because I'm a bit tired. But no, how are you doing? This is the constructor. Not drunk, I just had one glass. So my first supervisor who hired me like 20 something years ago brews beer. So on the way home I picked up from him a 2-liter of oatmeal stout that he brewed himself. So I just had one glass though. Okay. Needs this. And basically it's going to just initialize this guy. Oh, I guess I don't have storage for it. Let's skip storage. There we go. How, Mustafa Anderson, how's your JSON C# reader going? Are you have it all done yet? Let's see what we need to do. I think what I'll do is I will have the constructor start the thread. Or hold on. What does our main do? Plugin loader. It does start it right away, but we need to tell it when to stop. So let's just make it balanced. We'll have both of them start and a stop. You're bored on the C# JSON reader, so you're working on CSV now? That's fine. I have the same problem a lot of the times. I can't finish what I start. I think that's a hard thing to get into. The habit of actually finishing a project all the way through. I get started on a project and then like get to maybe a tough part and then I feel like, oh, there's these other things I'd like to play with, so let me go work on those. And then I now have like a whole list of projects that I've half finished. One of the things I'm hoping to do with the stream though is to get me into the discipline of actually finishing things. Because now it's like I can't just stop midway because I have people watching on Twitch. And like they're gonna want me to finish it, so this is helping me out. Okay. I'm all over the place with this plugin loader. I need to get a grip on what it's doing. So we want to be able to manually scan, but we also want to be able to, whoops, start background scanning and also stop background scanning. Right? Let's make these, oops, hit the wrong key and I like, my window just scrolls down all of a sudden. Okay, we have run, scan, let's add the other two ones. Here's where we're going to move the code that starts and stops that thread. And we should just, because it's a good idea, we should have a double check. So we'll say if the worker is joinable, then we won't try to start it a second time. And then for stop, it's the inverse. If it's not joinable, we don't try to stop it. So we get to move this worker thing in here. It's now impl underscore arrow worker. And we can say it's the plugin loader impl. I think I don't need to repeat that. I can just say that, right? Yep. And then it's impl get is the context. So that's the this given to the run. And then this code we have down here, that's the stop. Right there. So we abbreviated that, right? So it's just mutex and then mutex and then stop and then wake condition. Oh, I think it's impl arrow, right? Yep. There we go. And because we want these to be balanced, if that sets it to true, we want to have it set it to false up here. We don't need to do the wake condition because that's only used when transitioning from running to stopped. So we don't have to set it again, but otherwise they're pretty balanced. And also for extra safety, I think what we want to do is have the lifecycle functions, lifecycle methods, which are the big five, right? The destructor, copy constructor, which we will not allow, move constructor, which we will not allow, and then the assignment and move operators. Now the copy and move assignment operators, rather. Delete those guys. Oh, and I need to remind myself to do this, but it's better to declare that you're not going to throw exceptions. And so I declared the big five because I need at least one of them. I need the destructor. The reason I need the destructor is just in case you forget to stop the background scanning, we want to make sure it at least stops before destruction is done. So we will call stop background scanning. It's going to do an extra check, so it won't do anything unless it needs to stop it. If it does need to stop, it'll basically automatically stop if you didn't tell it to stop. Alrighty. So we need to put impl in front of all these guys. We're still going to be missing stuff. We're missing plugins and plugins runtime path. I'm just wondering if we need to protect plugins with a mutex, but I don't think I need to. You're a perfectionist, so you have tons of projects, those never finished? I think a lot of people are like that. It's something to work on, definitely. I mean, it's okay to have a lot of unfinished projects if your projects are just for learning or for fun, I guess. But stuff that you're doing for like a job, or in my case, I'm doing it for you guys, I do need to get everything finished up, right? All right, so the run is good. The scan is missing plugins, so we need plugins and plugin runtime path. Let's find those. Plugin runtime path. So I'm just stealing documentation here. Well, I don't need to do the stealing the documentation yet. I can just be assembling what I need in my constructor here, right? And we'll abbreviate because it's within the context of plugins. Just fill this in so that it doesn't give the red squigglies. Gotta sleep now? Okay, see you later, Rally Monkey. Yeah, I need to finish up within the next half hour myself. And tonight was a late stream because of me needing to pick up that oatmeal stout that I just enjoyed. Which was delicious, by the way. Okay, plugins. This becomes runtime path. We're good there. We just need these plugins, so that is a map, right? Where's our map? Where is it? Where are you, map? Here it is. I'm actually thinking because it's only used by the loader, we can completely move it in, right? Yeah. Well, hold on. The plugins loader. Can it own all the plugins? Yeah, sure, why not? So let's just move it in. Plugin loader. Oh, but hold on. If I move that in, I need to move plugin in there as well. Hmm. The more I have to be careful because the more I put into this plugin loader, the more it kind of becomes the web server itself, and then I really only wanted it to, at the core, do the scanning. And implied by the scanning is if it needs to do something, it does it. Yeah, so let me back up a bit. Instead of putting the plugins here, we'll have the plugins given to the constructor just like the server is. Like this. And let's make plugin just something we put in a header file. So back in VS Code, let me copy main and call it plugin.hvp. Update our CMake list to say we have now source plugin.hvp. Run CMake. Back to Visual Studio. Plugin.hpp, and that's capitalized. This module declares the plugin structure. It's just going to have that struct plugin, and that's it. Oh, actually, it's a bit more than a structure, isn't it? Maybe we need to make that into its own class, because it's got the load and unload functions. Well, actually, I kind of do want it to be sort of an open structure. And the load and unload are really just helpers, so maybe we'll just leave it the way it is. I don't like how Visual Studio messes up my indentation here. So, it's sort of a bother, so let me fix it before I do anything else. Okay, here, there's so many lines, I'm going to actually do this. Replace that with that. 29 lines relined. Okay, good. Unload have the same problem? Yep, it does. Repeat the same replacement. Okay. So this has got code in it, so a good thing to do would be to separate that out. Is that saved? Yeah. So copy paste, make this plugin.cpp. Alrighty. CMake. Reload solution. So declares the structure, right? So plugin CPP contains the implementations of the plugin structure utility functions, utility methods. So it's just going to have the bodies for, well, it's not all utility methods. Include plugin dot, hold on, it's in the same directory, plugin.hpp. Outdent all these guys. Plugin : and up here plugin : and get rid of this comment. All right. And here we can just declare them like that. Okay, now what do we need? We need time, so time.h system abstractions file JSON dynamic library, okay. Functional. Okay, HTTP server. And we really should include diagnostic sender as well, even though it's, I think it's being pulled in by a dependency. Let's pull it in ourselves directly. And same thing with string. Any of the types we use, shared pointer, so that's memory. Okay, good. Let's see, this should just, oh, this one needs its own include. String extensions, yep. Let's just compile that in place. So plugin compiles. How about plugin loader? Plugin loader needed plugin, right? No, this one, yeah, only needs, it doesn't even need functional anymore. Needs server, needs string, needs diagnostic sender, but that's it. Plugin loader CVV. This one needed plugin. Oh, you know what? I almost forgot. I need a guard. A header guard. It's always a good idea for a header to have an if, not def, and then a header guard. Plugin HTTP. It's what's known as a header guard. That way, if you include it twice, it won't give you nasty duplicate symbol errors. All right. No semicolon, and that is reference, so plugins. Need to put that in our state. Which means we need map, we need thread, functional, condition variable, mutex. What else? Diagnostic sender. No, we already include that in our own header. Okay, so this needs the server and the plugins. Okay, we don't have the plugins there, so let's add that. Server, plugins, runtime path. Okay. Okay, that needs map now. And it needs plugins as well. Yeah, and yeah, memory. Yep. Which means this doesn't need plugins. Okay. Getting there. Does this compile on its own now? Okay, good. So let's go back to the main. Main is going to need plugin and plugin loader. But the cool thing is now I can clean up the main quite a bit, so it doesn't need plugin anymore. That's a bunch of code. Okay, so we still need the plugins. I removed it there, but I really need it back. So the plugins are going to be made by this monitor server, because it's kind of built right here. We don't need to do, this has been moved, right? We moved that into the scan function there. So we don't need that anymore. Instead we make a plugin loader, right? We don't need any of this stuff. But plugin loader now, what does it actually need? A server, the plugins, the runtime path, plugins runtime path, diagnostic message delegate. All right. All right, so we don't need to do any of this stuff. We would just ask it to scan first. And then after asking it to scan, we ask it to start background scanning. That gets moved. So move that to there. Ah. Yeah, so we need another method of this plugin loader. Or hold on, do we? Maybe what we do is we just repurpose scan. Let's repurpose scan. So the way I would do it is get the lock guard. And we'd say if the worker thread is joinable, then It's being called while we're doing background scanning. Otherwise, we're going to do foreground scanning. Oh, hold on. This isn't going to quite. This is not really going to work, is it? Because yeah, never mind. So this one scans immediately. This one will start the thread that will be waiting to, yeah, it waits to be told. Yeah. I guess what we want to do is move this directory monitor and this image path change delegate into the plugin loader as well. This load knows about the, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, so let's have it handle the directory monitor as well. So, well, oh, hold on. I'm going back and forth because this monitor server, the plugin loader is going to become the monitor server if it gets any more responsibility. I don't want it to be have too many responsibilities. So really, it's not doing background scanning. It's just waiting to be told to do a scan. Through these flags. So, start. Just a minute, I'm thinking. Thinking is important. Yeah, it's really not the loader, is it? Yeah, I'm sorry, but this isn't making much sense. My brain is all over the place. I'm trying to separate the concept of monitoring. Well, this isn't even really monitoring the server. Why did I write this? It doesn't monitor the server. Oh no, it does monitor the server. Never mind. It's originally this was monitoring the server. We're waiting for it to shut down. But then we added this concept of plugins. Yeah, okay. So I am going to move the directory monitor in. So I'll be passing in the plugins image path. This is going to move in, and the directory monitor are going to move in to start background scanning. Right here. The directory monitor stop. All this has already been moved anyway. We need to call the correct function though. It's stop background scanning. That joins the thread. We already have that code moved. It's just that we need to stop the directory monitor. Stopping the directory monitor, probably a good idea to stop it there. So we gotta move the directory monitor. So where is it right now? It's sitting somewhere here. I don't see it. There it is. So move that in here. Oh, we need to make space for the image path. Blah-blah. I'm just fixing up some of the names now that we've moved this code around. It's this. Scan. Wake condition. Directory monitor start. Oh, impl. Impl image path. Actually, if we can't monitor the directory, there's really no reason to start the background scanning, so we can return early. Directory monitor is undefined. Oh, just a transient red squiggly. Yeah, we added an argument, didn't we? I'm gonna abbreviate this. Or not abbreviate, put it all in one line. There we go. And semicolon. And okay, server and plugins are references. These are all copies, so we copy them. Okay. What I need to get rid of, we don't really have anymore, is this scan delegate. So instead of calling scan delegate, I think what we said we would do was called scan. So that's, scan. Scan is an external method. We need to make it internal. So put a copy here. Have the outer call the inner. Where is the outer? Here it is. Return impl scan. Actually, I'm gonna have it grab the mutex so that the inner one doesn't have to. Like that. Right. Then this is just scan. Yep. Okay. I'm liking this a lot better. So this plugin loader is now responsible for background scanning for changes made to the image directory, and then when that happens, it will load or reload or unload the plugins. And we have a manual scan to start with, and then after that we tell it to do it in the background, and then the server runs in this loop, basically receiving data in other threads. Sets this shutdown flag when you hit Control C, and then we stop the scanning, unload the plugins, and we're done, right? Stop scanning is going to stop the directory monitor, stop our worker thread. I just need to clean up this class a bit. First the header. So this class, it's going to do a bunch of things. it doesn't just maintain the worker thread anymore. This class monitors the directory containing the image files for the plugins of the web server. If any image files, actually it's not just if they change, if they're found. Yeah. For any image files found, for any image files that are found to match a known plugin, the class will attempt to load the plugin, or reload it if the image file changes. Yeah. Okay, this class monitors the directory containing the image files for the plugins of the web server. For any image files that are found to match a known plugin, the class will attempt to load the plugin or reload it if the image file changes. I think that's pretty short and simple. So here we're going to document all of our arguments. So I think I'll just copy from where I've already documented those. Here. Well, here it's really, this is, okay, it's close but not quite the same. This is the server whose plugins should be managed or loaded. Plugins. And I think this is also mutable. That's why we have a reference. Parma or param. This is the dictionary of plugins known that are known and configured for use by the web server. Image path. I think I have that documented somewhere here already. Here it is. This is the path to the folder which will be monitored for plugins to be added, changed, and removed. These are the originals of plugins and will be copied to another folder before loading them. And then runtime path is these guys. This is the path to the folder where copies of all the plugins to be loaded will be made. Next is diagnostic message delegate. This is the function to publish any diagnostic messages. And there's another Parma. Alright. Scan. This method is called to perform manual scanning of the plugin image folder, looking for plugins to load. I should probably prevent that from being called if the background scanning is happening, right? If it is basically if the worker thread is joinable, then actually we don't return here. So it's only if it's not joinable do we scan, right? This method starts a worker thread which will monitor the image folder for plugins, loading and reloading or unloading plugins as necessary. And this one This method stops the worker thread which monitors the image folder. Private properties. Okay, so this is nice and clean now. The implementation. Copy this right here. This contains the private properties of the plugin loader class. Now, do we use all these things? Worker, recognition, yep, I think so. And these we should default. And let's group together the ones that were given in construction. So, server plugins, image path, runtime path, and diagnostic message delegate. So, I'm going to blatantly copy the documentation we had in the header file. Sorry for not chatting, but I'm just doing sort of mindless copying here. Almost done. And here's where I have to start actually using my brain a little bit more. What is this object? This is used to receive callbacks from the operating system when any changes are detected to the plugin image folder or the files it contains. Worker, this represents or not represents, this thread is used to, what's it really used to? To perform plugin loading and unloading in perform delayed plugin in response to changes made to the plugin image folder. All right. This is used to signal the worker thread to wake up. This is used to synchronize access to the state shared with the worker thread. This flag indicates whether or not the worker thread should perform a plugin scan. It's set when any changes are detected in the to the image plugin image folder or the files it contains. This flag indicates whether or not the worker thread should exit. Okay. I like this description for server much better, actually. Yeah, I like that much better. And then we need the plugins documentation. Oh, why am I repeating myself here? Oh, because I have to. These are the... Right, okay, never mind. These are the implementation methods. They just happen to have uh, ex external equivalents. So scan... Okay, this one's run. Oh, I moved all these out. Yes. And I changed some of the meanings too. This function is calling its own work, so it will call the... It will initiate a plugin scan whenever the given whenever the scan flag remains clear after a short wait period after being set. Yep. And then we have the implementation of the outer methods. Okay, let's see if this builds. If I make sure I didn't break anything. Oh, I did break something. That is a method, so we need to call it. Okay, it's building, so let's run it. And let's again rename the plugin so that it's not seen at first. Then we run it. Web server's up and running. The plugin loader starts, but then goes to sleep. Then we're gonna relocate the plugin back. And then it wakes up. It says we need to scan. It waits 1/10 of a second. And if you missed it earlier, I put in 1/10 of a second wait to avoid racing whatever is making the change to the plugin. I give it up to it has to finish, and then no changes need to be detected. Let me start over. If a change is detected, like we do this rename, the web server will wait until no more changes happen for a 1/10 of a second long period, and then it says, okay, it's safe to try to load it. The loading is first we copy it, and then we link it. We locate its entry point, then we call it to load it. And let's just, for the heck of it, let's verify it's loaded. So I'm going to use Chrome, and we'll just go to, hold on. There we go. So let me stop the web server. Oh, I have a crash, so we'll have to fix that crash in a second. Ignore for now. If I just relocate our plugin temporarily, and then start our web server, and then refresh, yeah, we get a 404 because we don't have the plugin. But if I move the plugin into place, it loads it. Now when I hit refresh, we get the coming soon message. Let's fix the crash I get when I hit Control C here. Probably has to do with shutting down our plugin loader. So let's just run our code. It's running. We hit Control C and then hit go, and then retry. And there's our crash. So it's when the thread is being destroyed. Really? Is the thread still running? No, these are other threads. So why is it crashing on destruction? Let's load. I have a hunch, but I want to load the symbols for the runtime library to see what it is. I think it has to do with the mutex. I wonder why it's taking so long to load it. Okay. Oh, the thread is still running. I thought we joined it though. Stop background scanning. If it's not joinable, oh, look at that, we never joined it. We told it to stop, but we never actually joined it. Worker join. That's the problem. Okay, run again. Control C. Continue. And it's deadlocked, I think. Let me hit break and see why. Okay, it should have satisfied the condition. Why is it not? Let's go to that thread. Interesting. So we did. Oh, okay. I see what happens. We block. Join will block, but we're still holding the mutex. So we need to do the changing and signaling of the condition while holding the lock, but then release it before we do a join. That's something I should have seen, but it's probably because it's so late I didn't see it. Okay, so Control C, go, and exits, and there are no leaks. All right, good. So let me check this in. This is a bunch of refactoring. Not in that project. It's in web server. So yeah, we did a bunch of refactoring. Extract plugin into its own module. And then plugin loader used to be just what? What did it used to be? It wasn't called plugin loader. It was plugin scan delegate. So combine plugin scan delegate and the directory monitor. And it also pulled in something else, right? Oh, okay. Basically, that was those two. Combine plug scan delegate and directory monitor into a new class, plugin loader, and add a background worker thread with a, what is it? Delayed load strategy to minimize potential races between plugin images being updated and the web server trying to load them. Basically copy and load them. We still need to handle the very remote chance that a plugin might be changed with slightly more than 1/10 of a second after another plugin is changed. And what can happen is while we're loading it, or while it's being copied, while it's being updated, we might try to copy it and the copy will fail. Either the copy will fail or the update will fail. Pushing that upstream. Oh, let me check to make sure that I don't have anything else I forgot to commit. Okay, it's all clean. So let's handle that remote case where it fails. So the failure can happen it's in plugin loader, right? It's this load function, right? This load can fail in a couple different points. Some of them are fatal, like if it can't find the entry point or can't link. Those it's operating on the runtime file, so those are fatal. If it can't copy, though, it might just be that we collided with whatever program or command is updating the plugin. So there we kind of want to try again after a short period of time. I think what I'll do is I'll introduce the concept of a needs loading flag in the plugin. So let's make a flag. This flag indicates whether or not the plugin should be loaded or reloaded. Needs loading. Default it to false, and what we'll do is in the loader, before it loads, Right now it's only going to try to load it if it's not if it's there and it's not loaded, but we'll change that to be it's not either not loaded or it needs loading. Actually, it's one and the same. No, it's not, because if we fail to load it, we'll just clear the needs loading flag, and then we won't try again unless the timestamp changes. Yeah. Actually, we should make that a separate if, right? If needs loading is false, we'll set it again to true if the timestamp changed. But first, let's do this. So if it it's and, isn't it? It's and. It has to be exist, not already loaded, and it needs to be loaded. Then we'll try to load it. But when we try to load it, some of these failure paths, if it fails to load, then we'll clear that flag, right? So needs loading equals false. That's basically we're going to give up. If we can't load it, we can't find the entry point. If we simply can't link, okay, simply can't link also, it's bad. If we can't copy it though, we want to keep needs loading true, because then we'll try again. Yeah, we'll try again. So how are we going to try again? How are we going to know that we actually need to do it? Scan can be called, right. I guess what we'll do is we'll default all these plugins to be needs loaded as true. So if it gets cleared, it'll get cleared if there's something wrong with the plugin, then we won't try again unless the timestamp changes. So here's where we need to record the timestamp. So it's all if it exists, right? If it doesn't, let's just have an early continue if it doesn't exist. If it doesn't exist, continue. If it doesn't exist or it's loaded. Let's keep them separate cases. If it's loaded, so if the unload delegate's not equal to null, also don't bother to look at it anymore. So right now that reduces it to just if it needs to be loaded. First though, we'll say if we think it doesn't need to be loaded, then we will say if plugin second last modified time is not equal to plugin second image file get last modified time. Actually, let's cache that. Const auto last new last modified time sampled. No, we'll just make it last modified time equals that. So basically, if the modification time changes, then it becomes a candidate for reloading. So needs loading equals true. So that allows it if the image was bad, and then you change it, it'll try loading it again. And then, right, so if the copy fails, so it still needs to be loaded, how do we know to scan again? Right now, we're only going to scan again if there's a change, if the scan flag gets set again. I guess what we want to do is count the number of plugins that after loading, they still need to be loaded. So let's have a count. Actually, where do I clear that scan flag anyway? Okay, clear it here. I guess we want to set it again if we know we want to retry. Yeah, so that's easy to detect. We'll say if it's still not loaded, and Mustafasin, if last modified state always true, line 126. So this is just making a local copy of the modify time, and it's comparing it to what we have stored in the plugin structure. So if they don't match, then it means the file changed since we last saw it. That's all that that's saying. Let's print something there to make sure that I'm right. You know, I could always be wrong. Maybe you might have seen a bug and I just don't realize it. So we'll have a little message here. We'll say if this, what I expect is, say system extractions printf. Am I capitalizing the first? No, I'm not. So plugin appears to have changed. And then the plugin first C string. So we should, how come it's, oh, I didn't include that. So now I'll see, we should see that message if we see the modification time change. Yeah, I still want to do a print there. I want to see that the plugin appears to have changed if we ever see a modification time change. Okay. Yeah, so then it becomes a candidate to be loaded again. If after we try to load it, if it's still not loaded and we haven't given up, basically that needs loading a flag is still set, then we'll force a rescan. And will that happen immediately? No, because it's always going to do this wait. So it won't retry more than 10 times a second, which is probably fine. Let's print something there too. We'll say, just, let's make it a warning too, because this should happen very infrequently, and it does. I kind of want to know if it does. So it's system abstractions, diagnostic sender, levels warning. Plugin failed to copy. We already have the message failed to copy plugin. We'll say will attempt to load plugin again soon. Well, I guess we can repeat it. Plugin S failed failed to copy. Will attempt to copy and load again soon. That's what I want to see. It's going to be difficult to make that happen because we basically are erasing the whatever is making the copy, right? Okay, missing a brace somewhere. Missing a brace. Where am I missing a brace? There. Oh, yeah, I am missing a brace. Okay, let's try this out. So, let's move it out of the way and start the server and move it back. Okay, it loaded it. Okay, that's a normal loading case. So let's try it when it's already there. It should load it right away. Yep. Now let's move it out of the way. Load it. And here I'm going to do something really sneaky. I'm going to in Notepad make a file with that same name. Ooh. So it made the file and it's empty, and I get a runtime error. Interesting. Bad image. Oh, okay. it's not a crash. It's actually a pop-up. I didn't expect to see that. A pop-up when we try to load it and it's not a valid image. Yeah, it says unable to link it, right? So, but the moment that we say try again, please, the moment I hit save, it should try it again. Yep, and it fails to load. And it actually tries a couple times. Oh, it's trying endlessly. I think I know why. Remember that comparison? We actually see that plugin appears to have changed, but I never stored the new modification time. Need to do that, right? There we go. Okay, so let's see if it fixed it. I need to look up how to suppress that pop-up. This pop-up that keeps appearing on my other monitor. It's basically telling us the DLL is bad. But I really don't want it to pop up a message for that, because we are already saying so here. Okay, so make another change. It's bad again, but then it goes back to sleep. If I go and I delete that file, it does the scan, but then it doesn't see the file. So if I then move the real plugin in place, it still didn't load it. Oh no, it did. It loaded it right there. It just happened so fast. It actually saw another. It saw another change. I wonder why it saw another change. Waking needs scan. Waiting, scanning. Plugin appears to have changed. Copying it, linking it. Everything's good. Sleeping, and then it woke up immediately. I wonder why. Anyway, it said update's still happening. Okay, so it got multiple callbacks. It backed off, went to sleep, it woke up, and didn't find anything. Okay, I guess they're just spurious wake-ups. So the directory monitor triggered it and woke it up a couple times, but it didn't need to do anything. That's fine. And the plugin's working. So let's check this in. So it's pretty robust, I think, now. Except for that weird pop-up, I need to figure out how to suppress that. So yeah, we added the ability to retry with this needs loading flag. Add code to retry loading a plugin if it fails to copy or changes. We give it a second chance if it changes, and if it fails to copy, we'll retry right away. And that's going to be the one difficult to test, because it's a race basically, and it should happen very infrequently. I think what I'll do is I will do plugin unloading and then wrap up the stream and continue on Friday. Yeah. So unloading, it's a little bit different, right? So right now, if the image file doesn't exist, we just skip it. But we actually want to see if it doesn't exist and it's actually loaded, then we want to do the unload. So if it is loaded, we'll print out well, actually, if we just call unload, that should be enough, right? Second unload plugin.first diagnostic message delegate. Because what unload already prints something, right? Yeah, it prints unloading, unloaded. I just need to make sure, if it appears again, will it try to load it again? I think so, because the modification time, either it'll have needs loading still set, or the modification time will have changed, right? Well, let's just to be careful, we'll set the flag again. Inside of here. Basically, if we see it appear again, we'll always try to load it again. So this will be fun to test, right? So run our web server. It actually found our plugin right away. Now let's do the rename to move it out of the way. It unloaded it. Now we move it back. It loads it. Move it out of the way, it unloads it. Move it back. It loaded it. Move it out of the way. Unloaded it. Awesome. I love it. So already our web server is better than Apache in one way. You don't actually have to tell the web server to reload or unload a module. You just move its DLL out of the way. Write the else instead if... where was that? Write the else instead if plugin second needs loading. Oh, the reason I can't combine that if with that if is we actually changed the condition here, so we actually need to reevaluate the condition. I hope that makes sense. Maybe I need to clean this code up a little to... Maybe it'll be clear if I put a comment. But it's good that you raised that because it tells me that I need to clean this up. At least with comments, if not refactoring this into separate methods. Because we're doing 3 things here, right? At least 3. If the image file doesn't exist, unload the plugin if it's loaded. If it's unloaded, and then move on to the next plugin. This one is if the actually it'd probably be clear if I reverse this logic, right? So if it is existing and it's loaded, skip it. No, we'll just keep it the way it is. If the plugin is loaded, move on to the next plugin. Later we'll have to come in here and say check if it's changed, and if so we need to unload and then reload. But right now we're just gonna keep it loaded. So if we reach here, then it exists and it is not loaded. Let's actually say that if we we reach here only if the plugin exists but isn't loaded. Check the needs loading flag. No. But if plugin is always true, because if statement false set true, well, there's a second if, right? We only set it to true if the modification time changes. Reach only the plugin says check the loading. Okay, I want to reword this. Yeah, do I even need this if? I can just always check the last modified time. Yeah, I don't even, yeah. Maybe that's what you're trying to say, which is good, because I don't need to do any of this. I can just do this unconditionally. I can say here, mark the plugin as being loadable if it changed. This, yeah. Yeah, sorry about the lag. How bad is it? Is it like? Let me do a little check here. I need to be watching my own channel. I'm getting a network error. What is this? My Twitch desktop says 2000 network error. Oh well, I don't know what my latency is. I guess I could reload my dashboard. Okay, it's reloaded. Let me 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1006, 1007. Wow, 8 seconds? My lag is pretty bad. I'm just, hold on, I'm just looking at my Twitch dashboard for a second. Yeah, I don't know why there's such a lag. Okay, mark the plugin as loadable if it's changed. If the plugin is loadable, try to load it. You reach here only if the plugin is not loaded. That's a little bit, just to make it kind of to make it clear. Because of these early continues, right? It's actually two conditions, which only if one, the plugin is not loaded, two, the plugin image is found. Yeah, and it's in the opposite order, really. So now when we read this code, it's like we first see if it exists or not, and we see if it's loaded or not. We reach here only if it's found and not loaded. We mark it loadable if it's changed. If it's loadable. So maybe I should, because I'm tempted, when I wrote the comment, I kind of thought of it as loadable, but I named it needs loading. I should, yeah, I should rename that to loadable. And in here. Whether or not the plugin, whether the plugin, whether the web server has determined that the plugin is a candidate to be loaded. This is like in case whether or not the web server has determined that the plugin is a candidate to be loaded. Yeah, that's better, I think. Sorry if you're confused. Maybe it's the language, the English language that I'm using. It's hard for me to sometimes pick the right words for my variables, so it might be that I'm choosing bad words. But anyway, oh, the C++? Really? I have trouble with English. Even, which is bad because I'm a native English speaker, but I can never find the right words for variables. How come this didn't hit my search for place? Oh, because it's in the different module. All right. Oh, is my web server still running? I never stopped it. Stopped it. Now I can rebuild it. Now I can run it again. Okay, so it loads it, it unloads it. Loads it, unloads it. Looking good, I think. Maybe I could throw in reloading. Yeah, why not? We'll pull. Let's check in this code first. Oh, I was about to check it in already, wasn't I? Okay, we did two different things here. This is the first thing we did. So stage those lines. This is all just a refactoring, right? So this change is unload plugins if their image files disappear. And this is all refactoring. Two refactoring, so rename, it was formerly called needs loading to loadable. Second is add comments to attempt to make it easier to understand the tactics performed by plugin loader when it scans the plugin's image folder. All right. Yeah, I kind of feel like doing that last thing. In our plan today, it was, let me go back to the plan, to handle plugin unloading plan and then handle plugin updating. Oh, I had a third thing. I'm not going to get to this. Maybe I'll do this on Friday. So we did unloading. We haven't really done all of updating because we could update it if we remove the image and then place a new image because it will unload and then load. Updating is sort of like if it's loaded and you swap or update the DLL image, it should do the unload and immediately load the new one. So let's do that, and then I'll wrap up the stream for tonight. So how do we detect a change? It'll be here. Yeah, so let's move this detection a little bit earlier. And we'll give it a name, const auto plugin changed equals that, right? And detect if the image file changed. If it doesn't exist at all, we'll leave early. So if it reaches here, then it exists, and so we can get its last modification time. And then if it's different from what we recorded last time, then we declare it to have changed. If the plugin is loaded, here we're going to change it to, if the plugin is loaded, do one of the following. If it changed, reload it. Reload it. Unload, copy, new image, load. If it did not change, move on to the next plugin. If changed, else continue. So it's unload, mark it to be loadable, and then try to load it. Plugin dot first. Oh, I guess there's a lot of arguments, so I can just copy it from here. And we'll have the same kind of comment too. Except we'll say failed to copy, will attempt to copy, and well, maybe we'll just build this into the load. No, because the load already prints something, right? It'll print unable to copy. I guess that's the only, hold on, I lost my place. Yeah, this is sort of redundant actually because that'll only happen if this happens. So if I see that message, I don't really need to see that message. Right? Yeah. So, oh, but I do need to set that scan flag, don't I? I guess we'll leave it in. Actually, we're always going to bail out because only if it's not loaded will we go here. I'm gonna move this line up to here actually, and then just use that changed flag in this logic here. That way it's always updated, so we only see it changed once. Okay. Unload, mark it as loadable, and then try to load it. If it's still a candidate to be loaded, but we couldn't load it, we'll say, well, it failed to copy. We'll attempt to copy and load again. Sets the scan to true so that we won't wait. We'll try again immediately. Yeah, that'll work. Let's try it out. Oh, did I get it again? Yeah, I did. I don't need to do that. And again, I forgot to stop my web server. It's still running in the background. Can't write it when it's still being run. Not in Windows. Okay, so here we go. So that'll load it. Now I'll just do a touch, which will update its last modified timestamp. It should unload and then reload. There we go. So unload, plugin unloaded, copying, linking, locating, loading, plugin loaded. It appears to have changed. Oh, this shouldn't have happened. Copying again, warning unable to copy. Yeah, because it's loaded. So it worked except for it tried to copy it a second time. It's when it says appears to have changed. Where does that happen? Right here? Oh, the changed is still set to true. Oh, because yeah, I forgot to do this. If it should only reach here if it's not loaded, right? So if we reload it, we want to continue. And it's continue, right? Well, actually, we want to continue in that case anyway. So we want to continue regardless of what happens here. So remove this all the way out. So if the plugin is loaded, do one of the following. Okay, so really we always move on. Then move on to do the plugin is loaded. Check if it changed. If so, reload it. Then move on to the next plugin. Yeah, okay. And I forgot to stop my web server. That's the third or fourth time I've done that. Okay, start. It loads it. So then touch it. Unload. Copying, linking, locating, loading. Loaded. Good. So every time I touch the file, it will unload and reload it. And then if I move it out of the way, it'll unload. Move it back, loads it. Touch it again. Unload and reload. So it looks good. So we have loading, unloading, and reloading. Cool. Let's check that in and then I'll wrap up the stream. For me, it's 1 in the morning. Okay, whenever you see that red square in Get GUI, that means you have an extra white space character. So where was that line? Around line 125? Here. There we go. Yes, so what we did was reload plugins that change while loaded. And git push. Okay. So I'm going to wrap up the stream in a bit. I'll give a little recap and talk about what I'll probably be doing next time. So got 2 out of 3 done tonight. The original plan was to handle plugin unloading and updating, which we got through. Then I was going to do this step that I realized last time. Abstract the server interface for plugins. I didn't get to it, so I'll probably be doing that next stream. The problem is, if you look at our plugin that we have now, the static content plugin, its main function, or its entry point function, load plugin, takes a reference to a HTTP server. That's the actual implementation of the web server. So what happens is the plugin DLL ends up getting a copy of all the web server code, which is bad. What we really want to do is take this class right here and separate what should be seen by the plugin from what is really only needed by the web server host. So all this stuff, right, the request we should bring out to its own class anyway. So like the destructor of the server, copy and move semantics of the server constructor, all this stuff we don't want the plugins to see. We do want them to maybe subscribe to diagnostics, perhaps. Maybe, no, we don't want them to get the server-wide configuration because they're already given their own configuration item. So we want to hide this as well. So I'm going to go through next stream and take the functions we do want the plugin to see and put them into a base class. And we'll have HTTP server, this server class, implement from that base class. And then we'll have the plugin be given a pointer to the base class, not the derived class. Essentially, that's what we'll do. Be doing that, and probably won't take very long. So I'll between now and Friday, I'll come up with some other elements of the plan. So going back to the roadmap. Oh yeah, we need to finish that static content plugin. So this current plugin only types of coming soon. That's probably what we'll do next stream. We'll get the API right for this pointer. We'll turn that into a pointer to a base class, and then we'll replace this canned response with actually reading from the real test static content directory. It's 11 a.m. where you are. It's 1 a.m. where I am, so you're 10 hours away. So you must be, if I were to guess, you were in Germany? That's my guess. Probably way off. There are many countries you might be in. I'm in the U.S. Pacific. Close, huh? Right on. Turkey. Awesome. In that slice of the, in that, what do you call it? Longitudinal area. Oh, hi, Rawls Martin. 10 a.m. for you, huh? I'm getting a lot of people in Europe. I think it's because I stream for me evening, and for you guys, it's bright and early in the morning. All right, so yeah, so next stream we'll be removing this canned content, and the goal will be for our server to be able to take what we put into the static content area, like this index, and get it all the way to our web client. And then we'll basically have a fully functional web server for static content, as long as we don't load it too much. And then we'll be moving on to making dynamic content and WebSockets after that. So, yep, I hope you enjoyed the stream. I'll be continuing again in 2 days. So 9 p.m. Pacific time. For you guys, what is that? If it's 2100 hours plus 10 roughly. 7, 8 a.m. in the morning for you guys on Saturday. So hope to see you then. And in the meantime, happy coding and have a good day, good evening. See you later. Bye.